Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. It's good to be back.
Yes, it is. Yes, we're back from a week off. I had my little staycation at Walt Disney World Resort and in theme park. Um,
Although,
and
Daniel, for most people, they don't have the luxury of a trip to Disney World being a staycation.
I know. I'm well aware. I'm well aware. Yes. But yes, we have returned, and we've got another full lineup of reviews to talk about. As usual, we get into things that are new or newish, and then something that is classic or older. And this week we our first review, which DB got to get the screen mat shared.
I do have it sharing, don't I?
I don't see it.
Oh, I hit stop sharing screen when I meant to say hide the big symbol.
Oh, I see.
You know what? I'm going to just claim beg for mercy on the grounds of being mildly rusty.
That's all right. Yeah. No worries. But it's our first review this week. Um, a biographical tale of somebody very well known nowadays.
Yes, indeed. We decided to watch Hillbilly Elegy, the child story of one Vice President J.D. Vance.
Yes, and of course, the book and the movie were made before he became vice president. But it's a good little window or story into the man's childhood, and then his a little bit of his early life to give you a sense of just how far he's come in the last 25 years.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this one is I'm trying to think. Of course, at the end of the biopic, they did the thing they always do, where it's like, JD went on to do da 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 da. His mother
Mhm.
went on to do da 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 da.
Yeah.
Um, I don't remember them even saying that he had gotten into politics specifically.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, they didn't mention it. When did he get elected to the Senate? That was
Uh,
in.
uh, Let's see here. Let's find out. I know that just because of a video clip I happened to watch the other day that he was on ABC commenting on the presidential election that year. So he was already at least politically adjacent by that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and this movie came out in 2020. It was a straight to Netflix movie, which I'm assuming they wrapped up the filming and everything
Mm.
before the
Okay,
before the lockdown.
so he wasn't a senator until 2023.
Oh, okay.
So he probably was like some sort of okay. He was I okay. You know what? Let's I am not sure how to look into this further without slowing things down. So let's
It's okay. All
focus
right.
back on the actual movie.
Yes. Yeah. So the movie tells the story of as we said, the life of JD Vance, and it's basically kind of goes back and forth between two different time periods between. Uh,
Almost. No, actually, no. You're right. It is two different time periods because the flashbacks are mostly moving in forward direction.
right. Yeah. And so it goes to his childhood, which specifically like the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. And then to 2011, when JD was, I think he just got out of law school.
Yeah. You're right. He was trying to get his first internship.
Right. Yeah. And specifically, he's trying to get an internship with the law firm in DC because his girlfriend, who's now his wife, was getting a similar internship or job in DC.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And yeah. And so, but then he gets a call from his sister that their mom is trying to or she overdosed on heroin, and that's when we get into uh, the backstory with his childhood, with the struggles of growing up with his mother, who was a drug addict, single mom. She was always going from one guy to another, and she was also very abusive towards him and to JD's sister, and of course in the background, watching it all is JD's grandmother, Mama, uh, who
Not Mima, Mama. Important difference.
yes, and Mama is played by Glenn Close, and then JD's mother is played by Amy Adams.
Which I gotta say, it must have been a relief to both of those actresses to go, oh, I don't have to be on a weird diet. I can just enjoy the occasional carb while I'm portraying these characters.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're actually playing real people and not like characters in a comic book movie.
Yeah, like, oh, it's finally an acting role I can sink my teeth into a bit.
Yeah.
Here. We also have Gabriel Basso as JD Vance, who Daniel noticed was the accused in our movie we reviewed a few weeks back, juror number 2.
Yeah. And yeah, he's pretty good likeness to JD.
Yeah, especially with like the way they cut his hair and made him up. He basically looked like a clone.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Yeah, so the movie is very much a melodrama about just for JD's life growing up in a very rural southern Ohio town, almost Kentucky, and just kind of the various challenges of it all, like like I said, his mom going from one guy to another, and then being physically and verbally and emotionally abused by her, and also then when she marries one of the guys that she marries as a kid of his own, and let's just say JD falls into a very bad crowd, and all that
Yep.
drama with that.
Then he's saved by Mama when she moves him out forcefully.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and she's basically the one that saves him and puts him on the path that he ends up going on later in his life. And of course, we see all of this through adult JD's memories, as he's once again having to deal with the his mother's issues, and trying to get her into rehab, and
trying to bail out his mom on the day before the most important day of his life.
Yeah, because he gets the call that she's overdosed, and then that same day he gets
9 hours.
Yeah, he's got to get in the car and drive 9-10 hours from back from Ohio to Connecticut, because he's at Yale, and to interview with the law firm. And so it's just and then like I said, it's just it's very hard hitting drama, and you definitely, I mean, regardless of how you might feel about the guy, you can't say that he didn't overcome a lot to get to where he is now.
Yep. So a few observations I have. First off, I did not realize that was Glenn Close. I am very bad at actually looking up who actors are before I watch these things, which I suppose is an advantage sometimes, because then I can just go, wow, they really transformed themselves for this role.
Yeah.
I'm used to Glenn Close having some sort of, how to say, air about her that she absolutely did not have as Mama.
No, she didn't. Yeah, not like she did in like like Fatal Attraction, or or even Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, or even 101 Dalmatians for that matter.
Oh yeah.
And then Amy Adams as his mother Bev. I've gotten into a rabbit hole on YouTube lately of watching a lot of cop camera footage. I wonder if that's how she prepared for this role too.
Probably,
because Amy is very good at bringing that sort of I'm 3 beers deep and I know I'm in the wrong, but I'm going to fight back anyway perspective.
Right. Yeah.
That energy.
Yeah.
Um, excuse me. Um, and Bev is I've known people who were that sort of unfocused or not unfocused, that sort of bipolary
Yeah.
where it does just randomly shift from laughing to it's almost kind of like that Joe Pesci scene from Goodfellas with "What am I, a clown to you?" Like you're just laughing and happy 1 minute, and then the
Yeah.
next minute it's like a like a you know like and she just does weird unpredictable things a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. She goes from jovial to angry very quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And she's jovial because she decides that because she and JD were dancing in a collector's card shop, he actually knocks over a stack of things, and the guy, and like they get into an argument, and she shoplifts a bunch of cards for him, and they drive away, and they're laughing and happy about this, and then it just
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know
Then
how all those snaps came up, but they,
yeah.
if they didn't, noise removal did its thing. Anyway,
Yes. Yeah.
um, now I'll say that it is kind of like it is kind of a predictable movie in its own way, just because you kind of know that JD is not going to. I mean, even actually, okay, I could see somebody before he really got into the national spotlight in 2023
Yeah.
when he became a senator, watching this and just thinking it's the story of some lawyer.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it would still be interesting from that perspective, just because you basically know, okay, he's not going to end up, failing, but how does he succeed? And also, it's just like the dish girlfriend on like all the crappy stuff that happened to him as a kid,
Yeah. Yeah.
because like you keep thinking that it can't get any worse, and then Bev finds a shovel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just oof. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if enjoyable is the right word, but I definitely found it interesting.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. Yeah, and there were definitely moments in there where it was like I was getting very, tense. Where it's just like, oh god, come on, come on, come on, move on, you know.
Yeah. The other thing I thought was kind of interesting is that even adult JD still showed the signs of his upbringing and like the emotional hurt in him.
Yeah.
It definitely portrays his girlfriend and now wife Usha as a very steadying influence on him.
Hmm.
It's also kind of interesting how it seems like there's like it's like there's this generational trauma that started with Mama that got a little bit less with Bev and then got a little bit less with him and his sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're definitely way more adjusted than their mother.
Yes. Yeah, and which is I think very poignant little thing to kind of say, hey, you can break the cycle. Yeah.
Yep. And let's see here. What other? I know from a directing perspective. Before I was watching this, now this is probably because the last Ron Howard movie I saw was Solo: A Star Wars Story, which is not fair to put on him at all.
No, he was a hired gun on that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it came in at the last minute.
I was going to joke like, oh, it's like they used to say back in the day, nobody ever got fired for choosing IBM. No one ever got fired for hiring Ron Howard. But no, I like the compositions. I like the shots.
Yeah,
It- I always could tell what was going on, except for I think there were probably a couple of chaotic scenes where you're supposed to be kind of off balance.
yeah,
Um, yeah, just an overall solid biography slash melodrama.
yeah. Indeed.
And you did find yourself rooting for everybody the whole way along. I even teared up at one moment where I was like, "Ah, good for you, JD, you did it."
Yeah. Yeah, I did too. Yeah. It's yeah, it's uh there's a certain amount of inspiration in this movie because like a lot of people will point to, like, that's in the United States of America is one of if not the only place in the world where somebody like JD can, come from where he came from all the way to the White House.
Yep. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's like, of course, not everybody can get there, but if you aim for
yeah,
that type of thing, you're bound to get somewhere good as long as you put in the energy.
yeah, yeah.
It is also kind of amusing to me that the movie poster we have here, and this is the movie poster they have on IMDb too, uh, chooses to portray his mother and grandmother rather than the
Yeah,
the main character,
yeah,
since it is, well, of course, they're the bigger names, but
yeah,
also they're the focal point, really.
yeah. They are. Yeah,
Now, I was of a mind of when I was watching this that it really made me think that JD is trying to kind of set himself up as the anti-Barack Obama in the sense that, he's basically our age, like late 30s.
yeah.
Uh,
I think he's right at 40. Yeah,
yeah, he's like the only millennial thus far to have gotten into any seat in the White House.
yeah,
Um, and it occurred to me that if I wanted to be cynical about this, uh, what he is showing here is very revealing and raw, but it isn't the sort of revealing and raw that like it mostly makes him look good.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Although they're like I
there
mentioned
is one
before.
scene where he nearly runs up and to try to bust a man's jaw because he dishonored his mother,
Yeah, yeah,
and he pulled back, but that was still a moment of okay. Like in biblical scholarship, they talk about the criteria of embarrassment, which is like, okay, would the fact that they included this in the story probably means it happened because it embarrasses everybody involved.
yeah. Mm.
It's kind of like, okay, God, Saint Peter, you're screwing up again,
Yeah,
you big dummy.
yeah.
like you probably know that Saint Peter screwed up repeatedly throughout those adventures.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure they all did. Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, like Peter in particular always seems like the thickest disciple when you read it. Um, I
yeah,
bring that up because that scene where he ran up the stairs and was about to bust down a door and beat a man,
yeah,
uh, just for like a man who was in the right, and he pulled back. That's like,
yeah,
okay, that's a moment that I believe actually happened pretty much as portrayed because it does show that you have a dark side and a wild streak or a violent
mhm,
streak in you.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I think that overall, if you just want to find out a little bit more about somebody who's probably going to be prominent for at least the next decade or so,
hmm,
I would imagine.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's interesting on that level. But even if you had no idea who he was, I think it would still work as a piece of art and melodrama.
Hmm.
Um, it's on Netflix. I hadn't realized it was a Netflix original.
Yeah, I think I may have remembered that at some point, but yeah, it's
Yeah, which I guess makes sense for something being released November 24th. If
hmm,
if it had been a Warner Bros. Thing, it would have been a Max original. But
yeah, yeah. They yeah, like I said, it was 2020 was when it dropped, and I wonder if maybe they weren't thinking about trying to do a theatrical release, but then the lockdowns happened and they couldn't do it.
right, maybe Netflix gave him a better deal.
Yeah.
Um, but speaking of a violent streak and embarrassment,
Ugh. Yes.
Daniel, I know that you're the Star Trek guy, but nobody made you watch Section 31 except yourself.
I know, I know.
I had this feeling in the back of my mind that all of the weeks while I was watching other stuff and thinking about the show. Oh no, Daniel's going to force himself to watch Section 31 because out of some sort of loyalty or masochism or whatever.
Probably more the latter than the former at this point. Yeah. So yes, I took 90 minutes out of my time to watch Section 31, which, yeah, it's for all the everything you've heard of it being really bad. What you have heard is true. It is really bad. It's this is not a good movie. So uh, before I get into too much of the plot, I kind of have to give a little bit of lore backstory. So, uh, for those of you who don't know what Section 31 is, they're basically a Black Ops organization within Starfleet, and they carry out kind of dirty jobs and missions that really go outside of the mission and uh, the laws and the ethics of the Federation, because the Federation is this peaceful, wonderful utopia, and Section 31 basically goes against all of that. And they first showed up in on DS9.
Which is basically the least Gene Roddenberry of the original Star Trek shows.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yeah. And they kind of presented it, but the way they presented it on DS9 was that uh, they were more like just kind of like they operated in the shadows. Like nobody had ever, like none of the characters in the show had ever heard of it. And so they're kind of more like, the way that they're in that show is very different than the way they are in this movie.
Right, because it's like they are basically the antithesis of what Starfleet claims to be. So, of course, they would be a well-kept secret
Yeah.
that even most Starfleet officers wouldn't know about.
Yeah, and they're not like flashy, and they're not like, just, they're not some like poor man's Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad, or something along those lines. If it was me making a Section 31 movie, I would have it be more like the miniseries that I watched, that I reviewed for the channel, called the Night Manager with Tom Hiddleston, something along those lines. Where it's not very less on action and more on the like cat and mouse, cloak and dagger aspects of it, which is not this movie.
Yeah, tell us about this movie. Was it Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No. No, it was nowhere close to that being that good. The so the movie kicks off, I guess, a few years after the events of, I want to say, like the third season of Star Trek Discovery, where
Right before they went into the really far future.
or I want to say I think they were in the very, very far future, but then Philippa Georgia, who, by the way, this version of Philippa Georgia is from the Mirror Universe. She's not our version of because our version of Philippa Georgia died in the first episode of Discovery, and so she ends up going back to the 23rd century, and it's a few years after that where she was supposedly working for Section 31, but then she left, and now she's running a space station out in the middle of nowhere, outside Federation territory. She's kind of like, if you play the Mass Effect games, Arya Talok, kind of a similar thing going on with her. And one of the things you have to realize about her is that she is as they called her on Rutherford Media. She's the space version of the mustache leader of Germany in the 1930s and 40s. She's not a nice person, and when she was the emperor of the Terran Empire, she killed a lot of people. And at the beginning of the movie, you actually see how she becomes the emperor, and it's bizarre and stupid. Um, so in the Terran Empire, how they choose the new emperor is they have like a Hunger Games battle royale type of competition,
So
and
basically, the Hunger Games.
yeah, the Hunger Games, and and she survived it, and so did her, along with her, I guess, boyfriend. And the last test of it is of to become the emperor is they have to cut all ties completely off, all personal ties. So she returns to her family and subsequently poisons them to death. This includes her parents and her younger brother, and but her boyfriend didn't do that, and then so she becomes the emperor, and she makes him her slave. And then we flash forward to when she's on the space station, and then we have a team of Section 31 goofballs who show up. And they're originally the plan was to like knock her out so that they can get their hands on a space MacGuffin, and but she spots them from a mile away, because it's just the way it is, and so we meet this just absolute dumb cast of characters. We got Alok Sahar, who's a guy who's the leader of the team, and he's actually a human who was turned into an augment, and he's from the 20th century, 21st century, and he was in cryogenic stasis, like Khan, and then they woke him up, and then we got another guy who's a Kamaloi, who's a shapeshifter, and the only other time we've ever seen one of those species was in Star Trek 6. With the woman who's a shapeshifter that helps Kirk and McCoy bust out of prison. And
yeah, I forgot about her.
Yeah, she was played by David Bowie's wife. And then we had this other guy who's like a cyborg. He's got like a bunch of mech stuff all over him, and then another like a parasite dude who's inside of a Vulcan. And a Delton, who's that's the bald, like the bald chick from the motion picture. And we also, last but not least, there's a Starfleet officer in there, Lieutenant Rachel Garrett, who, if you are really in the know of Star Trek lore, she eventually becomes the captain of the Enterprise C. And so basically the whole plot of the movie is just this group of idiots trying to get this super space weapon that Giorgio actually had created as a deterrent to keep her enemies from trying to overthrow her. And it was made by her boyfriend that she turned into a slave, and then he poisons himself, but then we realized that no, he faked his death, and he's actually the one who wants the super weapon, and is gonna use it to destroy the Federation, and then have the Terran Empire come through this breach and invade. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Man, you made it sound so interesting and accessible.
Yeah. It's
because it sounds
yeah,
like it has a lot of weirdly deep cuts.
yeah. It's there's so like there are a lot of like things that happen. So they're like like you have characters who portray other characters, and you have like characters who die, and then you have this unearned emotional arc with with between Philippa and Zan, who's the San, not San, San, who's the boyfriend turned slave who was now the villain. Um, and it's just like this was the whole movie feels like it was written by an 11-year-old, like an 11-year-old Star Trek fan.
Like their understanding of how society and government would actually work.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it plays out like something like I like something I would have written as an 11-year-old. Like if I was writing a Star Trek story, it would probably be something like this.
The biggest dent against it is that even my one coworker who really likes the new Star Trek stuff and has no problem with Alex Kurtzman, and even took a little bit of offense when I said, "Can Kurtzman only destroy so many franchises?" Then he questioned, "What franchises did he destroy?" And he refused to accept Star Trek as one of them. He hated this movie.
Yeah, that should probably tell you all you need to know. It's this is I would say that this is by far the worst Star Trek movie ever made. I would rather watch Star Trek 5 100 times than watch this movie again.
Well, yeah, I mean, at least if you watch Star Trek 5, you get Kirk.
That's true. Yes. And there are some redeeming. Star Trek 5 does have some redeeming qualities to it. Not many, but it does have some redeeming qualities. This movie doesn't. It's trying to be. It's like it's trying to be like Star Trek with like I said, with like Suicide Squad or Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's like those things are not compatible. Like Star Trek is not compatible with something like Guardians of the Galaxy.
I find it very funny. Okay, so I've argued for a while that gaming has been chasing the original Destiny's business model of microtransactions and 10-year games or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like the equivalent is everyone keeps trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy slash Suicide Squad. And it's just like, it's not, it is a limited formula that worked all right in its original context. You can't just apply it to other things. Most writers do not have the skill set to write a good heist slash doomed adventure story.
Right. Yeah. 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 No, that's very true. And this movie proves that. I mean, it's this just oh god.
Like there is a fine art to writing an unlikable character and making you root for them. And I feel like people just go, "Oh, well, Harry Dresden pulled it off, and I liked House, so
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I can pull it off. Sure, I'm talented, aren't I?"
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I yeah, the current people like Kurtzman and all the other people that running Star Trek now, like they're obsessed with the darker aspects of the lore of the franchise. Like like they're obsessed with this character for some reason. I don't know why.
I
Um
think it's partially because they got an Academy Award winning actress, um, and Michelle Yeoh is a fine actress and
yeah.
probably fun to have in your production, but let the character go.
Yeah. Well, and well the other two is that this was supposed to be a series. And
Yeah,
then,
it's the classic fate of the failed pilot to be turned
yeah,
into a movie.
yeah, and well, and the other part of it too was Michelle Yeoh winning an Oscar. Like she said, I'm not going to do this unless you give me a lot of money.
So basically, well, we already gave her a lot of money. Sunk false fallacy. Here we go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yes, avoid this movie at all costs.
Now, it's funny. I happened to mention House. I actually have a last-minute inclusion of a solo review of my own to put in here. So let me go ahead and
Oh,
post this
okay.
image I found.
Ooh.
So this is another seasonal anime sampler.
Oh, okay.
The title of it is Ameku Takao no Ameku Takao no Suiri Karate, meaning
Uh,
Ameku MD Doctor Detective.
oh, I think I've seen this on Crunchyroll.
Yep, that is where it's at. I
Yeah.
watched the first 2 episodes with a buddy,
Okay.
and um, so the overall premise of it, and I am awful with anime character names, so let me go ahead and pull this up because I had intended to do it, but I had had a few snafus today, so I forgot that I was going to add it into
Uh,
the rotation here.
that's all right.
So let's see here, which is first name and which is the last name here.
Uh,
I'm going to guess.
sometimes with Japanese, it's the first name is the last name, and
Yeah, what's confusing it here is also that on my anime list, they're doing the comma thing, which is also throwing it off.
oh yeah.
So it's Ameku, comma Takao. You know, I'm going to say that Takao sounds more like a first name. So if I'm incorrect, my apologies.
Mm,
So
yeah.
the overall premise of the show is that, and the reason that mentioning House brought this to mind is that Takao is basically a genius surgeon at this hospital, and she has a knack for figuring out seemingly impossible maladies in seconds. Like
Uh,
the opening scene, she's dealing with she actually she isn't even involved at first. The two nurses there, you and Mai, uh, are they're on duty. They're trying to figure out these two patients. You know, one little boy is just bedridden, very sore all over, has an awful headache, and one guy just has a crippling stomach ache. And Takao just waltzes on in and says, "Hey, you, we were supposed to do stuff later. What's going on?" Oh, well, I was, I was borrowed by this part of the hospital because they are understaffed. Well, I don't care. In 15, we have to get going. Hey, I'm still on here duty here for 15 minutes. And she basically goes, and I'm abbreviating in here, 15 minutes. Okay, give me a sec here. Let's see here. That little boy took too many vitamin A pills, and that guy was out fishing and he ate a fish with a parasite. Now let's get going. And he was actually completely right.
uh,
Just because she has a very Sherlock Holmesian ability to piece together minor details and arrive to larger conclusions because of it.
yeah. Okay.
She is basically, personality-wise, she is a manic pixie dream girl version of Dr. House.
Yeah.
So basically, man, you're lucky you're cute, or else I don't think anyone would tolerate you.
Yeah. Yeah. Better that than a pill popping jerk.
Yes. Yeah. As of episode 2, which is as far as I watched, I have not seen any evidence of pill popping.
All right.
But what I just said, you could have spun a whole episode of a house or another show like that out of that, out of either of those two premises.
Yeah.
But she solves them quickly because she's brought in on a case where you have a guy who is missing his whole foot and is bleeding blue blood.
Ooh.
And it's entirely unclear why this is happening.
Oh.
Now, I'm not going to spoil the actual mystery just yet because it's a mystery show. Half the fun is seeing seeing how things come together.
Mm-hmm.
So, and although I have heard studies that say that if you tell somebody the ending of a story first, while they might get irritated, they will tend to report enjoying their first read through of a story than somebody who just didn't have anything to go off of. And it's probably because the first time they watch or read something, it's like they're on the second go around noticing the hints.
Yeah.
but again, like just very much can irritate somebody. So what I will say is that there are some amusing bits here. There is one detective in the cast with the regular police who I am convinced, one second here, is meant to be a version of Columbo.
Oh yeah. One more thing.
Yeah, one more thing. My man, I'm in an anime. My wife's the real weeaboo. She loves that stuff.
Yeah.
Makes me dress up as Inuyasha and she's Kagome. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so Takao is, like I said, manic pixie dream girl genius. You, the male nurse, he's just kind of a blank slate. He's the Watson. He's there for her to bounce ideas off of and reveal things to.
Okay.
Slash the muscle on occasion, because she's a very short girl. One little detail that amused me is that they said, "Oh man, she almost looks like she could still be in high school." And the one little visual detail that tells you that she isn't in fact a high schooler is that, I don't know why this is consistently the case in anime art styles. They fully draw her bottom lip, which it's like having full lips is an indication of adulthood in anime. I don't make the rules. I just noticed them.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the actual mystery itself, so the mystery touches on one thing that I have a autistic, self-directed amount of research on. And I will say that aspect of the mystery doesn't quite work the way that they intended, or they would say it did. I more believe that they got the actual medical side of it correct, or at least something approximating correct. But if I apply, what's that phenomena where you can be reading the newspaper, come across an article that you know well, and say, well, no, that's true. And then you have amnesia and you move on to the next article as though it was true.
Oh, I can't remember what that's called.
Let's see here.
I've heard of it, but I
can't think of the term for it either.
Yeah.
But I'll call it news amnesia for this. I had a case of, I could be having a case of news amnesia where the thing I know about, I realized wouldn't actually work the way they portrayed it. And so, maybe all their research is bunk. But if you take it like for the standards of 70s to 90s episodic mystery show, it holds up well enough for that. And within its own terms, it doesn't it does a good job of giving you a little bit to work on, though I don't think you could figure out everything unless you actually were a medical doctor in advance.
Yeah.
Because they do come up with a plausible explanation for how the guy ended up with blue blood in his veins, but it's not something that unless you already know that that's a thing that can happen and the possible causes of it, I don't think you'd come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I would say it's a solid show. Modest recommend. If you have a Crunchyroll subscription and you're looking to watch something that isn't yet another isekai, go for it.
Yeah. All right. Very good.
Yep. Speaking of isekai and other things that have had a long, drawn out death and zombiehood.
Yes.
We watched The Franchise.
Yes, The Franchise, which they're totally not riffing on Marvel.
Nope, absolutely not. So The Franchise is a show. It's an HBO original that also was streaming on Max, and I say was because unfortunately it was canceled after one season.
Yes, which I would have been mildly interested to know what happens, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah. It's basically the trials and tribulations of the producers and actors of a new upcoming movie for a totally fictional superhero franchise called Tecto.
Yes.
And I heard when this thing came out originally, I heard a little bit of people talking about like behind the scenes, or it is based on people's behind the scenes anonymous confessions about working at Marvel and or on Marvel movies and DC movies.
Yeah, and when you watch the series, you definitely get that feeling of it um, because I mean, some of those stories have actually found their way online and on like Reddit and other places. It's like specifically like for instance the visual effects artists being overworked, which
Yeah,
definitely comes into this show.
yeah. Uh, and also just the like if you actually pay attention when they have their annual like here's our roadmap, and it's like huh, hey wait, wasn't such and such movie on the roadmap the whole time? Forget
Yeah.
you saw that.
Yeah, forget you. Yeah. Yeah, like where do you wasn't what Captain America supposed to be fighting the Serpent Society? Shut up.
Shut up, he's fighting Red Hulk now. Shut up.
Shut up. Yeah.
Hey, what wasn't Captain America supposed to come out in 2024 as based on the McDonald's toys already launching? Shut up.
Yeah. We totally didn't reshoot the movie 3 times.
Yeah, although that might have been based on a false rumor. Definitely more reshoots than average.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, so but with this the show, yeah, they're filming a superhero movie called Techco, and he's uh, what would you say like the Marvel equivalent of this character would be?
I don't know. They're kind of portraying him as like a C grade hero because he's
Yeah,
like a guy who can cause earthquakes, but he also has an invisible jackhammer
yeah,
that he has to. Um,
yeah.
it's almost. I guess he'd almost be like an Ant-Man, except that the movie that they're filming doesn't seem to have the comedic charm of Ant-Man.
No, it actually feels more like one of the Thor movies.
Yeah, that could. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
But
but yeah, the series, yeah, as DB said, it follows the trials and tribulations of them trying to make this movie, and it really centered most of the show. Like the central character is Daniel, the guy you see front and center. He's the first AD or assistant director, and he's the one basically trying to keep everybody together, and that includes stroking the ego of the movie's director, Eric, who's played by interestingly enough, played by the guy who played Baron Zemo in the MCU.
okay, that's hilarious. I didn't recognize him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's this like I hate to say he's kind of a typical like director that you would see like in a Marvel movie now. He's basically just some guy they plucked, who like directs commercials or documentaries or
Right.
small indie movies, and they just put
Right.
him in here to do what we tell you to do.
Right. But of course, he has delusions of artisthood and grandeur. Then he keeps trying to change the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, like in the first episode where they have all these fish people, and they're all made up in their prosthetic makeup and everything, and then I'll call him the Kevin Feige of the show, Pat, shows up and he says, "Oh yeah, we killed all the fish people in this other another movie that
Yeah.
comes out before this one."
Yeah. Or it's like oh yeah, we have the jewel of maximum potency or whatever they called it, the jewel of wonder,
Yeah,
and yes, hey, the guys directing the Avengers equivalent movie saw that they liked it, so they brought one into their movie that was like 10 feet tall.
yeah,
But that's our thing. That's showbiz, baby.
yeah. But yeah, so the show is very has a lot of like humorous takes that are like it's obviously meant to be very satirical because it's just with the just the what's the word I'm looking for, the pitfalls of making, yeah,
Yeah, the pitfalls and absurdity.
absurdity, yeah, of making one of these movies. And you've also got the actor who plays Tetko, Adam. who I think he's supposed to be Zac Efron. I think that's kind of who they're trying to like parody.
Yeah, like where he's kind of like a third string actor who's been promoted to this role, and he just isn't sure about himself at all.
Yeah, and and then in one episode you find out that he and the another actor who's like one of the low grade heroes makes a cameo, and you find out that the two of them were on like a teen sitcom together, and which is I think that one was supposed to be like a take on God, what was that show on Nickelodeon? Drake and Josh. I think that's what they were parodying there. And but yeah, it's because because Adam is just like he's always trying to keep his body in shape, and yeah.
I think one of my favorite scenes is he's taking all sorts of weird supplements and hormones, whatever. It's like, and this one, they feed it to sheep for muscle definition. But look at my back, and like, is that hair on my back weird and white and curly? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah. Wait, you think you're turning into a sheep? Yeah,
So,
and yeah,
I was going to say, so the show is primarily meant as a comedy first and foremost.
yeah,
And if okay, so I think this thing is great in the scenes where they just go into the absurdity, like things like, oh, we're destroying this historic bridge for this action scene, and how that goes awry. Or
yeah,
we have one shot at this amazing nighttime shot, and the director's gone all apocalypse now on us.
yeah.
Or
Or yeah,
we were supposed to get Captain America to cameo in this movie, but have fun with Namor from what do you call it?
Black Panther. Yeah,
From Black Panther 2.
yeah. Yeah, or and then like they're doing this. They have to do this stunt where they're being pulled on a wire, and they're like, "All right, and go," and then they're just like slowly going up.
Yeah. Let's hear. Who was the actor who played the villain again? Was it Richard E. Grant, Peter?
Richard E. Grant, yeah, and
Uh,
yeah,
he was definitely a highlight of it, because he definitely is good at portraying a bitter, jaded actor who, on some level, would almost welcome getting canceled. He keeps
yes.
trying for it.
He said, "I'm cancel proof." They're expecting me to say something really outrageous and completely, racist and sexist and all this
Yeah.
other stuff.
It's like he's old. It's like he almost wants to go home and be with his wife, but he can't stop
Yeah,
because sweet lady acting is too good for him, I guess.
yeah. He kind of reminds me of, like if somebody like Peter O'Toole or Richard Harris was in a superhero movie, and they would probably be acting like he acts in this movie or in this show.
Right, just like, this is so beneath me.
Yeah, yeah,
And probably the funniest line is a bit where Pat, the Kevin Feige stand-in, is talking with Anita, who we haven't mentioned yet, who is Daniel, the lead character's ex and also rival.
yes,
And he goes, are we killing movies? Because I've seen the numbers. I think we are.
yeah, yeah. And they even mentioned the Martin Scorsese
Yep.
quote where he like superhero movies are destroying cinema, and there's
Yep.
like they're like amusement park rides.
Yep. Yep. So the fact that this only got one, actually, okay, you know what? I'm going to talk about some negatives here.
Mhm.
So the actual set pieces are hilarious, like good to hilarious.
Yeah.
A lot of the dialogue when they're just standing around talking to each other, unfortunately, how to put this? There's a great video that I recommend people watch, even if they disagree with it, called Millennial Writing.
Mhm.
that kind of goes into a lot of downfalls of a lot of modern Western media productions. The kind of, well, that was a thing, and using curse words as the punchline.
Yeah.
Uh, the show definitely falls into that.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, there are a couple of moments here or there where I'm kind of like okay,
Uh,
this
Diagram that dialogue for me. Where was the actual joke in that?
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like okay, the person who wrote this episode watched too many episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, Joss Whedon's greatest crime wasn't his escapades; it was destroying a generation of dialogue writers.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of this lack of humor, in my opinion, there are two characters who it kind of focuses on the most. Dag, who is Daniel, she's the one on the left there, who is Daniel's assistant director.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, she just like very rarely funny. I think it's just because she is that millennial writer.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
other, and actually, both assistants are kind of comedy voids.
Yeah, like you're the director's assistant who's not pictured in the poster, but yeah, there's a whole subplot with her and one of the extras where they're like in a romantic relationship, which I thought was very cringe.
Yeah, and which is sad because that assistant actually, and until they introduced that side plot, he actually had one of the funnier running gags. Like, just he was getting married and things kept going wrong. Like, hey, honey, yeah, shaved, yeah, eyebrows and all. Oh, honey, please don't cry,
Yeah.
because he's having to like change costumes.
Yeah.
They also have a funny bit where they give a woman who just wants to get out of these movies a magical artifact that makes all the fanboys hate her and want to kill her, including
Yeah.
her own pediatrician.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because they have a woman problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the actress in there, there's she's sitting, back and because she's like, oh, I'm sitting this way because the tears flow down my eyes and it doesn't ruin my makeup.
yeah. She's like a mix of Brie Larson and what's her name who played Wanda,
Oh, Elizabeth Olsen. Yeah.
Elizabeth Olsen. Yeah. Um. So yeah. Now again, this is a very filthy show.
Oh
So,
yeah.
or at least filthy language. I would not tell my mother to watch. I would. Yeah, I probably wouldn't tell her to watch it because she can tolerate that sometimes. So I think this would go too far. Um, I can also see why this didn't end up getting a second season because it's very insider baseball.
Mhm.
Oh, it occurs to me, we actually kind of left out the main character in his plot, which I think is kind of telling because Daniel himself is almost never a very funny character.
No, he's trying to be the straight man.
Right. And so he's very easy to kind of forget, even though he's really the focal point of the show.
Yeah.
Because he, like, really, if he had his druthers, he would just usurp the director and take over.
Yes. Yeah. Which he actually does in certain points.
Yep. Because like he actually cares about these characters and the lore in the comics, and he just wants to go in there and make a good movie. So he is kind of the audience surrogate that way.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the part where they're talking about the invisible jackhammer, and he's like, "I hate the invisible jackhammer. I hated it when in the comic books. I don't know why we have it in the movie."
Right, because that's a very fanboy type of opinion to have. If you put me in charge of DC or Marvel with no restrictions, there are things that I would probably change that would make other fanboys angry.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Yeah. But so overall, I don't regret my time with it. It does end on a cliffhanger uh, that will never be resolved. So just go in knowing that.
Yeah.
It's not like a 10 out of 10. Like this isn't a new Simpsons equivalent, or this isn't a new what's another This isn't a. This isn't laughing at like a third rock from the sun or something like that.
No, it's or The Office or something like that. It's Parks and Rec, I think another one. It's very much a yeah, it's a decent enough comedy, and if you're in the know, and even in the slightest when it comes to the Marvel movies and their and the production of those movies, you'll definitely get something out of this show.
Yep. And if even if you don't know about it, hey, maybe it'll inspire you to take a deep dive.
Yes,
Speaking of deep dives,
yes,
a classic.
yes. A Hunt for Red October.
Sean Connery playing the greatest Russian ever.
Yes. Yeah, when you recommended this movie or suggested this movie, um, it's a welcome recommend or welcome suggestion because it's been a while since I watched this movie, and I remember enjoying it every time I watched it, and still enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I had never seen it before. I'll admit, I didn't even know that this was a Tom Clancy / Jack Ryan story.
Yeah, yeah. Excuse me. I didn't know it for a while either until I think when I was a little kid. When I think I remember seeing clips of it on TV, and my parents were like, "Oh yeah, this is a Jack Ryan movie," and I'm like, "Oh okay," like because Alec Baldwin plays Jack Ryan, and
Hmm.
in the Jack Ryan movies I had previously seen, he was played by Harrison Ford, so that's why I was a little
Mm,
confused.
right, with
Um,
Alec Baldwin covers him in this one.
yeah, yeah. And hey Anna, good to see you.
Hello, hello.
Yeah. Oh, I guess X can now do comments. That's interesting.
That's neat.
Um,
Does that show
yeah,
up on YouTube?
I don't know. Um,
Might as well
but
pull up the
uh,
stream.
but yeah. So yeah. So the Hunt for Red October, which follows the uh, what is Ramius, Captain Marco Ramius, played by Sean Connery. Um, he's the captain of the Soviet sub, the Red October, which is uh, a prototype or experimental sub, which has a silent propulsion drive, which makes it completely undetectable to sonar, and so it can't be picked up. And of course, it's got nukes in it.
Yes. And let's see here. This is a 35-year-old movie.
Yeah,
We can get to some spoilers.
yeah,
And this we're gonna yeah, this is all stuff that was early on in the movie too.
yeah.
Basically, Marco has realized that this sub is it is a war starter
Hmm.
because okay, so it is a submarine that can operate silently. It does have propellers on it too, but you can shut those off and switch to the silent propulsion system.
Hmm.
It has a whole payload of nuclear missiles. So this thing can just slip through the Atlantic net, park itself next to Washington, D.C. and New York, and just let fly. With an early warning would have like, what, I think they're saying like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, something crazy low like that to respond.
Yeah,
Um, and so he basically realized this thing is a sucker punch. Like this is not a deterrent.
yeah. And so uh and as he makes his way in the Atlantic, and
Well, he basically assembles a crew of all the officers are personally loyal to him because this is a guy who
yeah,
basically trained the entire Soviet Navy of his era.
right, yeah, and yeah, so he gets a bunch of officers who are loyal to him, and uh decides to defect to America.
Yep.
And the only person who in America who actually believes he's trying to defect is Jack Ryan, because Ryan knows basically all he needs to or knows all about Ramius. He knows, like his tactics. He knows his personality. He also knows about the fact that he's doing all of this on the 23rd of October, which was the 1 year anniversary of his wife's passing.
Right. The guy is basically he's an intel analyst, which I guess is his role in the other movies? Question mark.
Yes. Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah, it's kind of that's kind of a running trope in all the in every like Jack Ryan iteration, that he's just an analyst, but then he goes off and does all this action stuff. It's like, oh, okay.
Right. In this case, it's because he can't get anybody to believe him that no, he's actually trying to defect. Stop trying to kill him.
Yeah, yeah, and so it all kind of culminates with Ryan eventually getting on board a U.S. sub, the USS Dallas, which is tracking the Red October. And because then they get orders that because there was a political officer, so like all the
Right.
subs and everything, they have a political officer that's basically
Right. Basically, every Russian or every Soviet military unit had a political commissar who wasn't a fighter. His whole job was to make sure that everybody was being loyal.
right, yeah, and but Ramius kills the political officer and claims and says, "Oh, he slipped on his tea."
Yeah, because he's definitely not being loyal. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'd say that there's kind of three main movies here. The best part of the movie, of course, is every moment that Sean Connery is on the screen with
Yeah.
him and his men. Sam Neill also does a good take as his second in command.
Yeah. And you also have Tim Curry, who plays the doctor on the ship.
Okay.
And
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Like I said, we're not. If you just want a recommendation, go watch it. It's on Paramount Plus. Great movie. You'll have a fun time.
yes.
I was there was there was a plot point fairly early on where the sub did have some sabotage happen,
Yeah.
and can I tell you how astounded I am that they cast Tim Curry to be on the crew and he was not the saboteur slash traitor.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
of all the people you would think it would be him, but yeah.
nope, totally innocent.
No. Yeah.
um, what's so funny about that is that I don't know. I mean, basically, at least to me, Tim Curry is the voice of every cartoon villain growing up that I watched. Like I looked up his IMDb. And that guy had a series of like a long career as a cartoon villain from the 80s to the 2010s.
Yeah.
I think he's been slowed down a bit by illness, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, in the 80s, I think he played Judas and the serpent in some Bible show, according to IMDb.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
like the dude just has the perfect voice for for evil. So like, okay, yeah, and he's the doctor, so he isn't even part of the regular military command. So he wouldn't be one of the people that that Captain Ram or that Admiral Ramius would have hand selected. So he's the perfect candidate. Nope, totally innocent.
Yeah. Well, to quote another movie he was in, he's a red herring.
Yep. Second movie, which I think was second best. I was still enjoying it. You have Seaman Jones on the ship that Jack Ryan eventually gets on, played by Courtney B. Vance,
Yeah.
playing a sonar operator who is exceptionally good at what he does. And it's just kind of fun watching him be this god tier sonar operator.
Yeah, yeah. He's got the ears
The
of
ears of
an
a
animal.
bat.
Ears of a bat. Yeah. Yeah, like there's a scene where they hear a torpedo going by, and they're like, "Oh, this is the Americans." Like, no, it's too high pitched.
Yeah, he knows what a Soviet torpedo sounds like.
Yeah,
And so I liked that part of the movie. Him and also what was the captain?
Scott Glenn.
Okay, yeah, Captain
Yeah,
Glenn and his crew. That was fun.
yeah,
Jack Ryan almost feels like an unwanted intruder into the fun, tense submarine movie.
yeah. He does. Yeah, you could almost just put any other character in that role, and not be Jack Ryan, and you probably would have the same movie.
For that matter, you would just have to have a character who is an intel analyst, get that information to an American crewman, and then have him do the action role with that instruction.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's a couple of scenes that you'd have to rewrite a bit, but he's kind of unnecessary in the movie, which is a shame. Like I'm on the record that I think that Alec Baldwin is a fine actor.
He's a good actor. Although in real life he's a jerk, but
Yeah, well, separate the art and the artist.
yeah, that's true.
But now Daniel, you were telling me something kind of funny about him playing Jack Ryan for just the one movie.
Yeah. So Tom Clancy, who of course the author of the novel that the movie is based on, that's who Alec Baldwin is, who Clancy preferred playing Jack Ryan. And for whatever reason, Baldwin didn't go back to play the character in the subsequent movies, so they got Harrison Ford. And Tom Clancy did not like Harrison Ford's portrayal of Jack Ryan at all.
And I'm not having seen those movies, I can't comment. But I don't know, just the character as portrayed by Baldwin here just wasn't compelling to me for whatever reason.
Mm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
in fact, even like the last fight scene where he and yeah, and of course, Sean Connery just devours the screen every time he's on it, just with his sheer presence.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it is a case of like when you have a character who is on an arc like Ramius compared to Ryan, who is a classic static protagonist. Like he's not on some sort of great character arc. He is the guy who knows the things, um,
Yeah.
who knows what's going on, and can pull out in the clutch. But it almost felt like he took over. Like he just shoved Ramius aside during the last action sequence. Like, oh, I guess it makes sense that he's an old man, so he wouldn't be the one to finish this gunfight, but still, just
Yeah. 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 But
Um,
yeah.
the other thing I wanted to say is that watching this after we watched the 13th Warrior last year,
Hmm.
um, they had very much the same flavor, and I think it's because I've never read another Tom Clancy, or I've never read a Tom Clancy book, but Clancy and Michael Crichton, to my mind, kind of fit in the same sort of niche as, hey, we're action books written with a male audience in mind, and we're just super deep into some sort of nerdy topic. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
that where Michael Crichton would pick genetic engineering, more genetic engineering,
Yeah.
Beowulf, like
Time
all those types of
travel. Yeah.
things. Yeah, time travel. Yeah, he
Yeah.
would pick science fiction nerdiness. Well,
Yeah.
I did see once a faked somebody did a Photoshop fake cover for a Tom Clancy novel. I'm aroused by thoughts of men in uniform by Tom Clancy.
Oh man.
it's harsh, but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like he's very much into the crunchy military stuff, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and it's very interesting to see the gear on these subs from like things are digital-ish, but it's still like it's they still have things like tape recorder
Mhm.
and other analog technologies.
Yeah. They're using paper maps. Yeah.
Yep. So it is kind of cool just to watch from a gear perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, you're right about Clancy. Yeah, like I've tried reading some of his books. He can get very technical with how, like, like describing a jet or a helicopter or a
Yeah.
submarine. It's yeah,
Which this movie actually does a very good job of making everything accessible.
yeah,
Like there's a little bit of techno babble around the silent propulsion drive, but they do the smart thing, which is here's what it is. Huh? It means it can basically pull in water for its propulsion and run silently.
yeah,
Of course, what occurred to me after watching some reporting about the current fighting overseas is that a late-made Soviet prototype sub. First off, it's astounding that they bothered to give it a backup methods of propulsion. But also, the least realistic thing in this movie is that it required sabotage for an experimental propulsion drive to run into problems on its maiden voyage,
yeah,
given the state of Soviet engineering at the time.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, this was definitely a one of those kind of Cold War era things that we thought that the Soviets were developing all of these just fantastical things, and in reality, they didn't have anything close to this.
Well, so there's a incident where I believe it was a Soviet jet called the Hawkbat.
Mhm.
The Soviets reported what it was made of and what it could do, and the U.S. freaked out. And I believe we got the F-15 out of it, either the F-15 or the F-14. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
we got to counter this thing. And then a Soviet defector landed a Hawkbat in Japan, and that got turned over to the Americans, who proceeded to take it apart and go, "Those lying sons of bitches." They said this was a super light frame. No, they can't do the G's it's promised. It didn't have the flight ceiling, but of course we made our jet based on the assumption that we had to counter this thing. So you screwed up
yeah,
because they had a superior jet to deal with.
yeah. Yeah. That's the one instance where propaganda cannot work in your favor.
That is actually just to go a little bit sidebar here. That is a thing I've heard in a lot of reporting when you have people like comparing specs online. Um, the My understanding is that a lot of Russian things will be reported at their optimum, like okay, yeah, I can go this fast when it's loaded down, or it's not loaded down, or it can shoot that far under ideal conditions where there's no jamming, et cetera, et cetera. Where
Yeah,
usually the NATO stuff reports more typical performance. So you can have the weapon systems that look about the same on paper that perform very differently when you actually shoot them.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's a little bit. Man, I have become the thing I just accused Tom Clancy of being.
yeah.
Back on point. This is a very enjoyable movie. Uh,
Yeah.
I Sean Connery was great. It really made me miss him.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to well, he has a very he had a very vast filmography of other movies that weren't James Bond. So
Yep. Although, let's see here. Okay, so this wasn't the last movie. There was some really bad straight to DVD animated movie that was his last recorded role, from what I heard.
oh well, I know his last movie was The League of Extraordinary
Uh,
Gentlemen.
okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, so it was Sir Billy. Uh, which look at that amazing
Oh wow.
2000s era CGI.
Oh oh
Um, Although there is one movie that's listed after that from 2012 called Ever to Excel. So I don't know, maybe IMDb reordered things because they came out the same year and they didn't want to embarrass him that badly.
yeah, yeah. Ooh. Well,
Look, this is the real legacy.
yeah, yes, indeed, yeah, and also too, that toupee was superb.
I didn't even realize it was a tube.
Oh yeah, he was bald. Yeah,
That makes sense. That makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Like his hairline in uh, Indiana Jones. That's what his head always
Hmm.
looks like. Yeah.
I was James Bond. I'm not going to show up without my hair.
Yes.
Hey, Daniel,
Yes.
what time did Sean Connery arrive at Wimbledon?
I don't know.
Tennis.
Um,
All right, yeah. I'm feeling silly. It's been a week. I've actually really enjoyed shooting the episode this week just because it let me take my mind off of some other nonsense I've been dealing with. So
yeah.
um, I'm getting silly. This
All
movie's
right.
good.
Yes.
You are ordered to go watch it definitely before anything else we reviewed today.
Indeed. Yes. Paramount Plus. Yeah.
Mm. Yep. Get a month of that, or go get yourself, just go rent it digitally, whatever you got to do.
Indeed. Yes. Well, before DB gets too silly, uh, thank you for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate it as always. Uh, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, ring the bell. And real quick, I want to make a little shill announcement for myself. A week from tonight, on this very show, I will be launching Guardian Angel Part 2 on Indiegogo. So you will don't want to miss that, and you'll definitely want to back that campaign. So
Indeed.
yes, but we'll see you all next week for that. Bye, everybody.
Good night.